Greetings, friends, and welcome to the show today. I'm Conrad Carnegie, your host, and I have with me Rollin Russell. Rollin is one of those who's part of the cohort of authors that I'm working with these days, and Rollin's writing a book. Rollin, welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. I want you to talk about who you've been, who you are, and a little bit about the book. What's behind the book? Why is the book coming out now? But first of all, introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Rollin Russell, Rollin. Rollin rhymes with pollen. I've been living with that for my entire 87 years. Uh, I grew up in parsonages. My dad was a pastor in Christian Church Disciples of Christ, first in Indiana, where I was born, and then in New Orleans, Louisiana, which I call home. Went to went through high school there. In a deeply segregated situation, white high schools, black high schools, but had a wonderful time in New Orleans and tells in the book some of the strange things for an Indiana kid all of a sudden at age 11 being transported to New Orleans and living in that culture. And to college at Transylvania College, which is now a university, as I guess most colleges have tried to make that happen. And it's a disciples related college. I think the fraternity I was in, 14 of the guys in that fraternity were all pre-ministerial students, and a half of them were the sons of pastors. I think that's probably typical of a lot of denominations at that time. Went to Vanderbilt University Divinity School, mainly because I had an old 48 Chevy. I had applied to Vanderbilt and to College of the Bible, that's what it was called then. It's now Christian Theological Seminary, and to Pacific School of Religion. And I really would like to have gone to PSR, but I had a 48 Chevy that I didn't think would make it over the mountains. So I went to Nashville, and oh Lord, what a blessing that was. I ended up with a wife and 2 degrees and all of that. So I was at Vanderbilt Divinity School at the time that the sit-in movements began, 58 to 62. And one of my classmates was James Lawson, who is a hero of the movement. And I participated in sit-ins, participated in stand-ins, and eventually, along with my best friend, we were the two white guys on the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that planned subsequent sit-ins and stand-ins. That was a huge part of my formative reality because I was kind of an innocent Southern boy who mindlessly rode on streetcars that were segregated, mindlessly went to theaters where if you're black, you went in the side entrance and sat in the balcony. Mindlessly never thought about, well, why I see all these black people on the street, but why are they living in little houses behind the other houses in our neighborhood? I had a wake-up call. The sit-in movement was a dramatic part of it. And I figured the first coming out of seminary, very few people grew up in the South that had a commitment to justice the way I came to understand it through that divinity school experience. And so I went first to Charlottesville, Virginia, and then to, well, Charlottesville's a story in itself, but it was a very segregated town, though a very liberal town vis-a-vis the university. But painful struggles going on there and in 62 to 64. Got privilege of calling the United Church of Christ and went to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Was an associate pastor at a wonderful classic downtown church that had been founded in 1787, and had a wonderful experience there. My first encounter with serious liturgy, and it was the liturgy of the German Reformed Church as amalgamated with the Evangelical Synod of North America in the ENR, Hymnal and Book of Worship. And what a wonderful experience that was. And The pastor at Old Salem just kind of took me under his arm, under his wing. Their family, their teenage daughters babysat for our kids, et cetera, et cetera. We were with them at Christmas times, and my wife learned to make spring early cookies and pfeffernusse cookies. That kind of relationship that was truly wonderful. Next parish was in Houston, Texas, and talk about a change. I think I have a chapter in the book called "Learning to Talk Texan," and that was a switch, especially coming from a German Reformed church to Bethel in Houston, which was an Evangelical Synod church. Both, of course, then became part of the United Church of Christ in the merger of 1957. Served Bethel, served First Congregational in Fort Worth. That was a wild trip. That was full of energetic Yankees. The guys had gone to school on the GI Bill and gotten their engineering degrees and were working in all the aerospace industry places around Fort Worth, including Carswell Air Force Base, Bell Helicopter, Ling-Temco Vought, General Dynamics. And they were a delightful crew. I learned a lot there about, well, read the book. From there, and I'm not sure entirely why, though I think I try to make it clear in the book, I became associate conference minister of the South Central Conference, which was at that time 87 churches in all of Texas and Louisiana, plus a ministry in Biloxi, Mississippi. And since I'd grown up in New Orleans, I had a lot of the kids I grew up with were in those churches that I was now an associate minister for. So I traveled. Jim Tomasic, my mentor and boss, conference minister at that time, traveled all over Texas, Louisiana, serving those churches. And then I became a candidate for and was elected conference minister of the Southern Conference of the United Church of Christ. And a whole lot of the book is about the experiences that I had in that setting. 307 congregations, 130 of which were African American congregations, the largest Black constituency of the UCC. And there was such a broad and wonderful variety of styles of worship, of spirituality, and such a remarkable time because we were only, one generation away from the civil rights movement, and a lot of the people had vivid memories, some of them very bad, some of them very heartwarming, of that experience, and a lot of conflict among the leaders of those churches as to how we become a church and how we establish unity and work in mission together. And that's my idea of a good time. That's what inspires me to help people find each other's goodness and work together. At any rate, write a lot about that. But that also gave me a number of ecumenical opportunities that I write about a lot. One was the United Church of Christ had a full partnership, full communion arrangement, Kirchensteuer, with the Evangelical Church in Germany. And I was invited to lead a delegation of Southern Conference folks to Church of the Rhineland and visit churches there and firm up that relationship, a beautiful relationship that lasted my entire tenure as conference minister. And then I also ended up being the president of the North Carolina Council of Churches for 2 different terms, and dealing with the ecclesiastical realities and painful situations among the wide range of churches in the North Carolina Council of Churches, as we dealt with first the Metropolitan Community Church, who applied for membership. And what do we do with that? Mm-hmm. And then strikes going on at the pickle growers, and what should the church together say about that and do about that. And just some wonderful stories that I think will help people understand both ecumenical ministry, administrative ministry, and I guess the whole approach is to pull back the curtain for people, for lay people on the one hand, to understand what the dynamics of being a pastor are in tough situations and tough personal situations, family situations, and social situations, and to maybe say some stuff about those that pastors will be able to relate to and find some comfort or maybe some inspiration in. So that's kind of what I'm doing and where I'm going.
So, Roland, I'm really struck with how crossing boundaries, moving towards the other, ecumenism is a kind of through line of the story of your book. And that happened early on in your life. It set you up. In some ways, your dad, your parents set you up
Yeah.
to do that for the rest of your life. Is that true?
Well, that's true. My dad was first president of the New Orleans Federation of Churches at a time when they dare not call it a council of churches because people in New Orleans thought that was a bunch of communists. But he was an ecumeniac from the start. He did his dissertation for his BD at Butler School of Religion, which is now Christian Theological Seminary, on the social justice message of the Hebrew prophets. I've still got a copy of the dissertation. And he was very not wild-eyed crusader, but circumstances catch up with you when you're in the ministry, when issues come up in the community and they're reflected in the congregation. And some of his struggles I was a party to firsthand, and some just through his telling later. But that set me on that course of both racial justice and Christian unity. Those are sort of the main themes.
So, Roland, you're not only a pastor's child or a pastor's kid, as the book title reflects, but you're also have been deeply embedded in the workings, the making of the sausage, as it were, for the church broadly. And in some ways, you're the last kind of person who would write a book like this, because you're the kind of person, it would seem, who wants to protect how the sausage is made. But
Yeah. Well, I hope
you're
you feel like I've sort of pulled back the curtain on that too.
you have pulled back the curtain. You are pulling back the curtain. Why? Why?
Well, uh, in the first years that I was conference minister, that was in that little Alamance County, North Carolina, where the conference office was, near Elon College, now Lee University. Um, I was often asked to speak at civic clubs, the Kiwanis or the Rotary or that kind of thing. And those guys and the guys, it was what they all were at that time, were all church people. And I figured, you ought to know what it's like to be a pastor in the churches that you guys attend and are officers in. And so I did a lot of things about what happens when it's budget time. And they're offering, oh my God, how can we save some more money? Well, we could cut missions, or we could, Pastor, do you really need the story? And I would also say, you can tell a preacher's wife by the teeth marks in her tongue. Do you have any idea what it means to be married to a pastor who knows all this stuff and has to decide what to share with his spouse and is very aware of his, in my case, his vow of confidentiality? So for that's kind of where the idea originated, is those times when I and see people's eyeballs get big and their eyebrows go up and say, "Oh my God, yeah." So that's kind of the tenor of the approach that I take, at least
You
with
know,
the
Roland,
parish ministry.
Yeah, I'm a sociologist, and one of the things that Peter Berger, who I love much of his work, but he says this, the wisdom of sociology is that things are not as they appear to be. And it would seem to me that in part, the wisdom of this book that you're writing is that things are not as they appear to be, and that what you're
Well,
doing is revealing how things really are. Is that true?
well, yeah, that's kind of true. Or maybe it's like the swan, gliding peacefully across the surface of the lake, but underneath there's a whole lot of action going on to keep that swan
Yeah.
moving. And I try to, help people understand that, and maybe help pastors get say, oh golly, yeah, that's happened to me, and maybe encourage them to get a little bit more open about what they're feeling, what they're doing, or what's going on, and what they think really ought to be going on.
Rollin, I thank you. This is a teaser, folks. This is just a teaser for a book that's coming out later this year, we trust, Rollin, as you keep working at it. And I just thank you for being a guest on the show today. And we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you and let the readers hear more about how it's going and
The
continue
title of
this.
the book is Preacher's Kid, a pastoral memoir. At least that's the working title.
Thank you. Thank you, Rollin.
Thank you,
Blessings to you.
Conrad.
Thanks for being
Yeah.
part of this. Take
Talk to
care.
you
Bye
soon.
bye. All right. Bye bye.
Bye.